Okay, now that we know how to draw the picture of the quadratic equation, which we call the parabola, now we need to be able to look back at our piece of artwork and answer some questions related to your graph. So again, we learned how to graph y equals x squared, which again I'm going to call the basic parabola, the parent function. And there's a picture of it on your PowerPoint. Once we draw the graph, the picture, now there are questions I can ask you that are very specific to this graph. The first question they're always going to ask about the parabola is the location of the vertex point. Remember, we just plotted 7 points to graph this function. But the most important point on the parabola is the point that's all by itself, that's not with a buddy. And that's what we call the vertex point. And if you look very closely on this graph, the vertex point is at the origin, which we denote as 0, 0 in parentheses. So when they ask for the location of the vertex point, or they ask for the coordinates of the vertex point, you would give in parentheses 0, 0. The second thing we're going to ask about a parabola is the location of the axis of symmetry. Now listen to your vocabulary words. Axis means line, symmetry means the same. They're asking you, where can you draw a line that would cut this parabola in half? Well, first of all, because the parabola is going to always be the letter U, the only way you could take a U and cut it in half is straight down the middle vertically. So when we draw the axis symmetry, it is always a vertical line. And it will always go straight down the middle, and that's where the vertex point is located. So if you look at your PowerPoint at your diagram, you will see in green the axis of symmetry. It's that green line that's going straight down the middle that shows the left side of the parabola looks identical to the right side. Think about this. If you took the left side and folded it over, it would fold right on top of the right side. Now, because that's a line, you don't give its location like you give the location of a point. Think about it. A minute ago, you told me the vertex point was located at 0, 0 in parentheses. And that's how you always give a location of a point. You give an x value and a y value. But to give a location of a line is totally different. We give a location of a line by writing an equation. And this is something you learned in Algebra 1, 098. To write an equation of a horizontal line, the first thing you have to tell me is which axis does that line touch? Well, if you look, all vertical lines that go straight up and down will always touch the x-axis. So when we write an equation of a vertical line, we use the letter x. So the first thing we write is x equals. Then you have to tell me at what x value on this number line is that vertical line touching. And if you look closely again, that green line is touching the x-axis at the number 0, at the origin, which is x is 0. So we write the equation of the axis symmetry is x equals 0. So again, you give the location of a point, you give that answer, you write it differently, then you give the location of an axis symmetry, a line. A point is always named with 2 numbers, an x and a y in parentheses. A location of a line is written as an equation. The third thing I can ask you about this parabola is where is its y-intercept? Every parabola will touch a y-axis, always. 100% money-back guarantee. So everybody look closely at the y-axis that's going straight up and down. Where does this parabola touch the y-axis? Well, again, it touches at that origin, that point smack in the middle. So we would say the y-intercept is at 0, 0. Because the y-intercept is a location of a point, we name it with an x value and a y value in parentheses. Okay? If you look at this parabola, it only touches the x-axis once. So it only has one x-intercept or one root. And again, if you follow along across the x-axis, it touches at the number x is 0. Because that's a physical point, we name it as an ordered pair with an x and y value, which is 0, 0 in parentheses. The other thing I want you to notice is this parabola turns upward. Now, I knew before I even graphed this parabola that it was going to go up towards the sky because I'm going to look very closely at the coefficient in front of x squared, the a value. And we've talked about that. The coefficient in front of x squared is the a. Remember from the quadratic formula? Okay, what is your a value when you write y equals x squared? Good, your coefficient in front of x squared is 1. If your coefficient in front of x squared is a positive number, that guarantees your parabola will turn up. A moment ago in the previous module, when we graphed the parabola y equals negative x squared, that coefficient in front of x squared is a negative, which meant that picture, that parabola turned upside down. And that's an important thing to understand. When you look at the coefficient, the a, if it's positive, the parabola's got to go up towards the sky, and if it's negative, the parabola will turn down to the ground. Okay, I'll see you in the next module. We'll graph some more.